Hi everyone, welcome to More Than Medals by Crossing the Line. Today we're going to be talking with Howie Sanborn. He talks about his experience serving in the military, jumping out of planes, and ultimately competing on the world stage in Paris 2024.
I don't know if you can change people's minds around that word. Some people just kind of made up their mind and they'll dig in. But I do
Sure.
like that. Like I and we do not know anyone else's life, right? Like that person that comes up to me in the grocery store, I do not know how their day has been. I do not know what their life is like, but it might be bad, And
Yeah.
me, grocery shop, if that's the thing and even if it's not the correct word, just the idea that it's helping them see okay, my circumstances are difficult, but so are everyone else's, and everyone is navigating it the best of their ability. There are a lot of invisible disabilities. Ours are not. It's very easy to see that we are dealing with some hard stuff, and so maybe their life is perfect, and them saying that I'm inspiring is totally just kind of not cool, but maybe their life sucks. So I choose to look at it that way, where I'm like, hey, you know what? If I made their life a little bit better, even for the day, or maybe they've got they know someone in a wheelchair that's stuck at home because they think they can't navigate the world, and then they can be, oh, I saw this guy, maybe
You could try this, maybe.
Yeah, and I've met athletes along the way that spent 10 years at home because they didn't think things were possible, because no one told them that you can make these transfers, and you can, travel, and you can do sports. They just didn't know. So.
Yeah, totally. I think for context, I have an example of that when I was first injured, I really thought that it wouldn't be safe to sit on a surface other than your wheelchair. And so I would go to someone's house and they'd be like, do you want to sit on the couch? And I'd be like, oh no, it's not safe. And other para athletes had to tell me that. I had to be like, you can sit on the couch, dude. That's fine. And that's the kind of thing that you talk about being outside of the rehab and learning things in a different way. And that's literally the kind of thing that I think some of us genuinely didn't know that we learned from each other. So I feel you can't understate how valuable it is to have those people in your life that are you can sit on the couch, you can wheelie off the curb, all of these little things that make your life so much easier. So after you're injured, you decide that you want to pursue triathlon, and it sounds like pretty much right away. That was just the next thing. And then you end up meeting our fabulous producer, James, at the Paralympics. And so what happened in between? Did you know you wanted to pursue the Paralympics from the start? Was that the goal?
It's hard to say, because I think some people think that was my ultimate goal, because at the time of me getting injured is right when they announced that paratriathlon would be part of the Rio Paralympic Games.
Did you know that?
Yeah, because I had linked up with Dare to Try, so I knew.
Okay. That was a big announcement.
Yeah, and I don't think I was I'll go to Rio. I think I was smart enough to know you don't just do this overnight. Yeah, this is, people train for this. People are working very hard to qualify for this, and it's not you just get to go and participate. There's a lot that goes into making that standard. And so the first couple of years that I did triathlon, I was still retiring from the military, and so I was trying out a lot of other sports at the same time, which I highly recommend to any new injuries. Is try weird stuff like wheelchair or bocce ball or wheelchair tennis. Even if you never played tennis a day in your life and you thought tennis was dumb, let's say, you might get into wheelchair tennis and be like, man, this is so much fun. I want to do this. You just don't know. So I did all sports camps. I did a series of games called Valor Games that are all veterans, and then I did Warrior Games, which are a lot of veterans, and so for those 2 years that it took to retire me, I was focusing most of my energy on paratriathlon, but I was exploring a lot of other sports and building my community with no real strict coaching, no real strict here's the hard goal. I was just really having fun, and
awesome.
Yeah, trying to figure out what my life looked like outside of the military. And then in 2014, once I retired, I moved to Denver and decided to kind of get a coach. And so 15 and 16, I was getting a coach, and I was getting better, but I wasn't seeing great improvement, and I thought, okay, like this is probably just me. Like maybe this is like as far as I can go. And so, Tokyo, Rio had come and gone, and Tokyo was next, but it's like 4 years away, and I was like, nah, I don't know. Like I didn't get that good these last couple of years. So 17, I went no coach, and all of a sudden I was like doing really well. Not because I
Ooh,
didn't have a coach, but because I was like I actually put in a couple of years of good training,
yeah.
and so it was finally starting to like see some results. It was just
Just time, you
I kind
think?
of bailed out a little early, and so 17, even without a coach, I won the national championship, um, which is like at the time it's like a big deal, as you're coming up, like that's like a big deal.
When
But
you win the national championship and you're a US athlete, it has a little bit more weight to it than
yeah,
maybe some of the other countries. You guys are
yeah.
definitely a powerhouse in triathlon.
When I was racing against guys, that had come into the sport at the same time as me, some that had been in the sport a little bit longer, and so now I'm getting on the podium there, I'm winning there, and it just correlated really well with 2018. Well, the end of 2017 and beginning of 2018 is when they started to create the resident team at the Paralympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. So because I'd won the national championship, it basically gave me dibs if I wanted a spot there. And so I was able to move down to Colorado Springs, live at the Olympic Paralympic Training Center, with, from 18 to 20 being the goal of going to Tokyo. And you're training full time. Um, like you sleep there, you eat there, you swim there, like the gym's there, sports medicine, you're doing everything, like that's day and night. And I was kind of sick. I was dealing with some health issues, and so I was kind of up and down for those 2 years. And then we're coming into 2020, and I was kind of like, we'll see. I was like maybe I might have been like 15th in the world at the time or something like that. So I knew I had quite a ways to go in 2020 if I was going to qualify. And then COVID hit and just like destroyed everyone's plans as far as Tokyo went. And so, but it also gave me an opportunity to finally go to the hospital and really get fixed, which was just incredibly lucky timing because it turned out that I had a really bad bone infection and I was septic and almost died. And so,
That's terrifying.
I know, right? Like I just kind of like rolled in and I was like, I don't feel good. And then they were like,
And they were like, yeah, you probably shouldn't.
yeah, they're like, you need a blood transfusion, bro. And
Oh
so,
my God.
yeah, so I was like, rushed into emergency surgeries and had all this bone removed, had a piece of my femur removed, um, just several surgeries that left me in the hospital during COVID when there was, no visitors allowed, no outside food allowed, like everything was on
Oh,
lockdown. And so I did 5.5 months in 2020, not being able,
literally on lockdown.
yeah, literally like laying flat, like couldn't get in my wheelchair, like had to lay flat for 5 months basically. And I had like a little cart that I could drive around on, but I was laying on my stomach like Superman. I mean, it was insane.
Hard to imagine.
Yeah, and so when you come out of that, like it's the end of 2020, no one still really knew like what 2021 looked like. No one knew what the games were going to look like. But I got like right back to training as quick as I could. Like as soon as I was out, I went to a training camp like right away, and we went to a race in Daytona. So I'd been out of the hospital for like a week, and we go to this race in Daytona, and I was too big to fit in my racing chair. So the run was out. I already knew I couldn't do the run. So I was like, I'll just do the swim and the bike, and we'll just see where we're at. And it took me an hour and 15 minutes to do those two pieces, which,
Give us some context. How fast did you race
yeah,
Worlds
Worlds, I went like 105, I think, 104
for the whole race?
for the whole race. Yeah. And like my fastest race is like 1 hour and 1 second or something like that. Like
And this
usually
is
we're,
adding a 5 kilometer run, which we do in a racing wheelchair,
yeah.
to those two pieces.
Yeah,
Okay,
which is,
yeah.
yeah.
Things
So,
have changed.
yeah, so I was like pretty far behind, and I was like, man, this is going to be a rough comeback, but if I make
Hmm.
it, it's going to be a cool story. And so,
For
right,
the
so like,
story.
yeah, 2021 kicks off, and like at that point, I never won the Continental Championship, and I knew I was going to need to win that to get the points that I needed. But along the way, that would be the last race before qualification window ended. So I knew along the way, I needed to like get some good points, and so I went to every race, like I went to Japan. I went to England. I went straight from England to France. France straight to Spain. Spain straight to a continental championship. So I did like 5 races in the course of like a month and a half, like just back-to-back races. But I knew getting into continental championships that I was going to be, like I need to be like 11th in the world, I think, and I was 13th in the world, even with a win. But I won my first continental championship, which should be like just like a big proud day after years of racing and never winning. And instead, I was just like, this sucks. Like I
Because it
know,
wasn't enough to qualify
yeah,
for the
I
games.
already know what this means. Um, so like a week later, they called, they like call everyone and they kind of like tell you if you made the team. It's like a thing. And they called me and they're like, hey, you didn't make the team. Also, because of COVID, like you need to vacate the training center. So I got like kicked out of my home. So it's like just like insult to injury. And so as I was packing a U-Haul to move back to Denver, everyone else was packing their bags to go to Tokyo, and everyone went.
Brutal.
Yeah, all my teammates went, but me. And another just devastating, like just crushing feeling. And I just remember, like, I was just like next to the U-Haul, and I was just like, I will not feel like this again. Like it will not happen. And so I'd already sat down with a new coach. We spent like 2 hours in his garage, like coming up with a game plan for what the next 3 years would look like leading up to Paris. And not like, hey, I want you to coach me, but it was like, hey, I want to go to the games. Like I don't want to miss the next games. And so we got started right away. And there were still several races outside of Tokyo that year. And so I raced the rest of the season, finished it out, got my best world's finish, and then that propelled me to like 10th in the world. And then 2022, we just worked our butts off, and I think I finished the season like 6th in the world, but I had like I just got like destroyed at Worlds that year. And so we went back and like found out all the things I was doing wrong, fixed those, trained the off season, and then 2023, it's like, all right, the window's going to open this year, and like we need to make sure we get some points early, so we're
To
not fighting.
qualify for Paris
Yeah,
2024.
exactly. So we're like, let's get the points early. Let's make sure that we're peaking at the right time. And so I worked super hard and won that first race in Montreal, which doesn't guarantee you anything, but I went from like, you know, never being in the top 10 in qualification points to suddenly being like first technically. And so I finished out the season and I was first overall in both Paralympic qualification points and world standings, which is just like insane. Um,
How does that feel?
oh, I mean, it was wild. And my dad like tracks me. I think he's got a Google alert every time my name pops up, every time the points come in. So he was just like right away, like, hey, I saw you, you finished the season
You're
at first.
number one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's like, I booked my flight and my hotel to Paris.
I love that. I
And
remember when I saw that you were number one in the rankings and being like, "Oh hell yeah, this is amazing."
yeah,
So I can't even imagine how that felt to be that person.
it was wild and cool. Like you almost don't believe it,
Mhm.
but it
You're
was like,
like reloading it to confirm.
yeah, and I was just like to see like all the work that Ken Axford, my coach, and myself had done to like get to
Get
that,
there.
to go from missing a games to suddenly it's like, holy crap, like we win in March and like
Yeah.
we don't have to do another race like at all. Like we didn't
Yeah.
we didn't have to do another race. Um, and
One
so
thing that stands out to me a couple of times as you talk about your story is that you talk about being at these like really low points that are sort of unimaginably low, to be honest. And then you talk about how quickly you turn around from those low points to thinking like, I didn't qualify and all my friends are, and I've got kicked out of my home and I've been training at this for years and now I don't get the opportunity to go. And then you talk about how quickly that turnaround, or it sounds quick in the story, from feeling like that to feeling like I'm not going to let myself be in this position again. Does that take time or what does that look like?
yeah, I think uh, man, it goes back to being a ranger. A lot of it,
Yeah.
like we fight onto the ranger objective no matter what. Like your guts can be spilling out on the ground, and like you just keep fighting. Um, but I think it is important to like grieve those losses, be whatever emotion you need to, whether it's angry, sad, whatever it is, like let that happen, but don't let it happen for too many days in a row before you flip that switch. And so I definitely took a day, 2 days, whatever it was. I don't remember specifically how long I took, but I just knew I was
Yeah.
like you had your moment. Like
Hmm.
get your shit together. Like you're not done. You're not dead. You know, like you still got a lot of fight left in you. Like, and I think that true character is defined by how you respond to adversity. You know, like anyone can be happy and go lucky when they're winning. You know, that's easy
Hmm.
to have a good attitude. It's easy to get ready for the next race. I'm like, but when you experience loss and when you experience failures, like it's very easy to cash it in. And I think a lot of people would have, when I got hurt initially, would have understood if I decided not to pursue any high level sports. I think they would have understood that. They'd have been like, yeah, we get
Hmm.
it. You lost everything. Like that's, you know, like you get to be as sad as you want. And same when I didn't make the games, I think a lot of people would have been like, yeah, you spent 6 months in the hospital and, you know, like you missed the games. Like that's a good enough reason to not try to go for the next ones. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm like, no, like F that. Like,
There's so many points in your story where I feel like a lesser person, that would have been it. And I think even when I hear you talk about it, I'm like, would I have kept going through that? Like, I really don't know. Like, I think maybe not.
I
And
think you don't
I
know until
feel
you're there, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And in some ways I hope that I never have to find out. But I think that it's so easy to see that you going into the games ranked number one and you be in this position that you so thoroughly deserved. But that's when people come into contact with you and they don't realize like how much went into that and how much loss went into that and how many times you had to not win or have a bad outcome and then keep pushing. And I think like it's so incredible to see those athletes who you admire at the top of their performance to also understand that they're not always there.
Yeah, I think even athletes that we know, you just think they're like just rock stars, right? And they just always
Hmm.
win, and it seems like they never have a bad day. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's just not the case, right? Like there are days that all of us are like in training, just like throwing water bottles because it's just not working, you know, like. And you don't see that, and you don't get to hear about those days that just sucked. And like all of us have had those days where we're like, you know what sounds good? Not doing this, like doing anything else other than this. And then
Hmm.
you like same thing. You just like go pick up whatever you threw, and then you like get back to work. um,
Is there something you like think about in those moments? Like, do you really think about the Ranger Creed or do you think about like your previous experience? Like, what do you pull from?
yeah, I think I pull from um, a lot of ego. This is a very ego driven. Anyone that wants to be at the top of anything, it's going to be a little bit ego driven. You know, like uh,
Hmm.
we can say like, oh, we're doing this for our country, and that might be partly true, but like no one's asked you to. You know, like it's
Hmm.
got to be some personal drive there. Um, and so I've always wanted. I mean, like I said, I was like the littlest kid in high school, like small town, like, and I would watch these movies of these people like living these big lives, and I just wanted to do that. And so I just always look back on like what would make like that version, that young version of me, just really proud. You know, like
Yeah.
and giving up would not make that version of me proud. So I pull from that. I pull from what the version of me as a ranger, like in combat, like what would they want to see me do? You know, like how would they want me to respond to each adversity, each hurdle? Um, and so I pull from all that. Yeah.
A lot of people, when they look at this kind of thing, it's really hard for them to imagine that athletes like yourself like suffered in the same way or went through the same dark times as them. So I think it's really nice to talk about that and to have people understand that the journey is more than just winning. It's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, and I think everyone's like it's not about the finish, it's the journey, and it's both, right? It's all of it because when you
Hmm.
finish, like it's not the end. That's just like a piece of the journey, like the journey, like
Yeah.
going. So it's always the journey, and we have this unbelievable, unbelievably fortunate lives. Like even though we're in wheelchairs and it sucks, like we also get to travel the world, and we have like this group of other athletes that just push us to be better in life and in sport. And um, yeah, you can't take any of that for granted, I think. And so I do my best everywhere I go to like just keep the best attitude I can and make sure I'm like taking advantage of this and um, doing all the stupid stuff we do. The racing hard, but then like also like going out and like having meals together. And I mean, I've just done some weird stuff as I've traveled, and I'm so glad I have. I'm glad I've done. We call them fancy dinners, and they're like these big high end dinners, and like where you're overlooking like Tokyo Tower or you're in the Eiffel Tower or whatever it is. Like I love doing those with other athletes and other friends, or going to the beach, or I've been to like all the Disneys now, and I'm not even a Disney fan. Just because I was
You
there,
don't strike me as a Disney adult.
yeah, I'm not, and I'm just, well, I'm like, well, I've already done like both the U.S. ones, and we're in Tokyo, might as well. And then I was like, well, I'm at Paris, I guess I'll go to this one too, like just to say I
Yeah.
did.
Live the life.
Yeah, so I try to do like weird stuff too along the way. Like I just like Google, literally, like I'll just be like, what's the weirdest thing to do in Rome, and find something off the beaten path, and.
Well, we went to a hedgehog cafe together, so I can definitely say that you
Yeah,
have good skill for finding the weird things to do.
and that's like me taking the fact that like with my disability comes nerve pain. Like I live with pain all the time, and a lot of nights I do not sleep, and I'm up for hours at a time. And I'm like, I think early on I was just like so angry about it and like just so mad, and I just would be like literally like screaming into my pillow. And now I'm just like, well, let's like Google weird stuff to do in Yokohama. Oh, look, a hedgehog cafe. Like that'll be fun. Like let's text everybody at 3 in the morning and tell them we're going to a hedgehog cafe. Like
Yeah,
like
it's
learn
so
to take advantage of
interesting
that
to
weird
hear
stuff.
you talk about like the reason that we end up doing some of those unique and lovely things is because you're in pain. I think like that's part of that like makes me sad, and part of it I think is it says so much about your character that you take that situation where you're suffering and you're like, how can I have some fun in the future, or how can I like bring this trip to life for my friends? I think it
Yeah.
says so much about you that it adds so much context to me that when we do those things, to know that sometimes that's where it comes from.
A lot of times. I'm just
I
like,
have a question about one of the things that you said. You had said that you would watch those characters on TV and you would want to be like them. And I think it's really interesting because kids do that. I think a lot of the time, like kids will watch like their basketball hero and they'll think like maybe I can be that person one day. But I think a lot of people grow out of that. Like they stop looking at the best person in what they want to do and thinking like maybe I can be that. Do you still do that?
oh, definitely. Like I
Yeah.
yeah, like because I think some people will look at like, let's say it is a baseball star, and they're like, oh, maybe I
hmm
could play baseball in the big leagues, but a very small percentage of people ever get to do that. But it doesn't mean that you can't live a big life like your heroes, right? Like that opportunity exists, and you might have to take it a little different path. Like I definitely did not plan on living a big life in a wheelchair, but
hmm
here I am, right? Still making the best of whatever situation you're in, like just constantly trying to grow and learn how whatever that looks like. Um, but I've always been like a movie kid, so like growing up watching movies, especially coming from such a small town, which I look back on now, and I was so lucky to grow up that way. Um, but at the same
Looking
time,
elsewhere for these big lives that maybe you couldn't
yeah,
live in your town.
yeah, and I've just looked at these movies, and I'm like, man, all this stuff exists, and I want to go see it, and I want to go do it. And I think like obviously we can't like pretend that we're going to be like Indiana Jones like necessarily, but it doesn't mean that you can't go and like end up doing something super weird that should be like movie worthy of us just like being dumb, like
They
in
could
like
make a movie of your life, Howie. It would be interesting. I would
yeah,
watch it.
just us doing weird stuff while we travel around, like and the people we meet and the interactions we have, like. And so I've always wanted to do like everything at the highest level that I could achieve, and make sure that I don't ever take any of those opportunities for granted. I can't stress that enough, I guess. But
Yeah.
there's a movie. So I definitely watched like all the military movies. I knew I was going to be in the military. Watching Ranger movies like Con Air with Nicolas Cage is like a ridiculous movie, but I remember like that being like one of the catalysts of why I wanted to be a ranger.
Being
Like
like, I could be that guy.
they
I love
open
that.
they open up Con Air with like the parts of the Ranger Creed. Like there's this speech given by like a general, and he's using parts of the Ranger Creed and just talking about, like how badass these dudes are, and then he is through the movies just like this like very like lives by a code type guy, like lives by a code where like you sacrifice your life for your friend's life. And man, I was just like, man, I hope I'm that type of person when I'm a grown up, that.
Wow.
But there was this movie that most people I think it came out maybe before I was born, and I'm old. It's with Kevin Bacon. I know, right? And it's called Quicksilver. And if you've never seen it, it's a bike movie. So from like early '80s, and they're
I'll
on
have to check
like
it out.
yeah, they're on like fixies, like fixed gear bikes. But basically, he works on like the stock market in New York City, and he like loses all this money, and he sees this bike messenger, and he decides to become a bike messenger. And I remember being a little kid, and he's just like lives in New York City, and it's like a big city, and I'm in this little tiny town, and he's riding his bike, and not because like that's all he can do. It's because that's what he wants. He could have millions of dollars. Like he could keep doing that. Instead, he wants to do something that he thinks he's going to be in love with and passionate about, and that's cycling and like being a bike messenger. And they're doing like tricks. And at one point, he's like in his loft, and he's riding his bike. And I was like, I'm telling you, this is like 7, 8-year-old Howie's watching this movie, and I'm like, man, how cool would it be to like live in a big city and ride your bike for a living? Like that's what you do. You just right. And
Oh,
so I didn't do any of that growing up. Like I went in the military. I was never going to see that. And then I get hurt, and I end up renting this like big loft in Denver, this big city, and I'm riding my bike basically for a living. And
yes.
I was just like, man, like 7-year-old Howie's so proud of me right now.
He's so proud.
Like riding our bike for a living, like just like we
Yeah.
always dreamed, Not the way that we dreamed it up necessarily, but like we made it work.
It's so nice that you can appreciate that you can like look back and say like little Howie would be proud because I really feel like without having known him, I really feel like that's true.
I mean, it's like one of those things, like you said, like kids dream like that, like they have those like, oh, that could be me one day.
Hmm.
And then it's
Totally.
a lot of times it's not, and it's not for lack of trying. It's not. It's circumstance sometimes, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
but
So
sometimes we.
let's talk about the games. You qualified for the Paralympics. Tell me about it.
I did. Super stoked. Like I said, my dad had already booked tickets, and yeah, the preparation that goes into the games is insane. On top of like the amount of physical training you're doing and the timing and the recovery work that goes into it. I mean, it's day in, day out if you want to be at the peak. There's also, equipment needs to race to the top level, make sure your equipment's, dialed in. And I really felt, we did a training camp like 2 weeks before we went down in Colorado Springs, me and my coach and my handler. And man, I felt good. Like I felt real good going to the games. And what an experience it was. But you kind of know what happened. But getting there, it's larger than life. The opening ceremonies was crazy. And as athletes, we're like tapering in that part, right? Like we're kind of slowing things down a little bit. Training's a little lighter. You're recovering from travel a little bit. And man, like the race, because we're swimming in the Seine, there was just like all this like back and forth. Like, is the water quality going to be good? We chose not to do any practice swims. Between me and my coach, we're like, if we don't know how to swim today, we're not going to know how to swim on race day. That's for sure. So like, let's not risk the water quality and like getting sick. So we did like pool swimming, but then we get some rain and some weather, and they're like, like they're trying to decide like what's the best way to make this race happen. And so they moved us a day earlier, and then we get weathered out. And so, you're dealing with like these changes, but like you got to like keep it cool and like and stay relaxed and ready. And again, I feel like we really did that. Like race morning, when it finally went off, like I felt so ready to go. I felt ready to have my best race of my life. Swimming in the Seine, I know you'll agree. Like once you make the U-turn, you're coming upstream, currents just wrecking you. Like you just tell you're going slow. Like it's like you look, like you spot, you like sight, and you're like, have I gone anywhere?
It's like, this is the same brick on the
Yeah,
wall, I
right?
swear.
Like, I swear, like, I've moved nothing. Um, but what an iconic swim to say we swam in the Seine. And I didn't get sick, so I can say I did it without getting sick, I suppose, which is like a unique experience. And then the bike is my strong suit. And so my bike was so pimped out. Like, we just did it up in black
Your
and
bike
gold.
looked amazing.
I
I
know.
think you had the prettiest bike there, which I don't
Yeah.
know is a compliment to you, but it's meant
Oh,
to
it
be.
is. Yeah. Like, it was just decked out in black and gold, which are Army colors. They're Ranger colors. You got carbon fiber and gold. Like, if you're going to go to the games, like, you go for gold. Um, and so it was just like, I had, like, I usually race in my Maverick helmet. And so I had to do a black and gold edition Maverick helmet for me. Put the eagle from the Maverick helmet on the back wheels, like USA, like, just represented. Um, so freaking awesome looking bike. Um, and disc wheels all around. Like, everything's carbon fiber. It's so awesome.
Sounds cool, even.
I
You
know, right?
sound fast.
Yeah, like, it sounds like a freaking rocket ship, like a jet. And so
And you
just let
passed
it.
me on the bike, and I distinctly remember feeling like you were a rocket ship.
I felt like I was going so fast. I mean, it's cobblestone, like you're just ripping on cobblestones, and I mean, when you're out there, you're trying to be as focused as you can be. But I mean, the crowds were crazy. Like, they're just like banging on the Paris signboards on the bridge, and it's just like electrifying. Like, just fully cranked up. We would make the turn. We come over the Point Alexander, and there's like that tight right hand turn before you go down, and right there's like a little corner cutout. And Joe Townsend, who I don't know if you ever met Joe, but Joe used to race for the Brits. He was sitting right there, and so every time I'd come around that U-turn, I could hear him cheering for me.
Screaming.
Like, yeah, and I was just like, you're focused, you're dialed in, but like, it's like right there, and so it's like just amping you up. And so I like hammered that bike and felt so good. And then that's when everything like made like a weird turn, because I was on a new racing chair, had about a month on it. Such a great chair. Like, I'm pushing my fastest times in training, like not by a little bit. Like, I'm setting like minute quicker 5K times off the bike. So it's just crazy to see like how fast this chair is when it fits me so perfectly. Unfortunately, it turns out that 6 weeks, I needed 6 weeks and 1 day more to find out that the design would fail, sadly. Because the design that we did, because I can't kneel like most of us do. If you've never seen a racing chair, most people are all like, they bring their knees up to their chest and they're like scrunched in that thing. I'm not. I have a lot of nerve pain and leg pain in my thighs that just don't allow me to do that, like especially my left side. And so I use a foot plate, so my feet are kind of down. There's a bar that goes down, and then literally a metal plate. Well, we made it out of carbon to make it lighter, but it just holds my feet right in place, and I'm in a great position to push. But pushing with power, like, it has to go somewhere, and it turned out that it was going through the pipe. And so with like a quarter mile to go, make the last U-turn, it's me, the guy from France, we're coming up on the guy from Italy, like, we're about to overtake fourth place, and it's going to be a shootout between me and the French dude to see who gets fourth. Which, you know, like, obviously everyone wants to be on the top step, but like, realistically, I know where I'm at, and like, I'm like, if I can be the best H1 and like beat Giovanni from Italy and be the top H1, like, I will feel very proud going up
Yeah.
on the course
Winning your
against.
category is no joke.
Yeah, like, I was like, I'll feel, you know, Giovanni's been the top H1 the last, like, you know, 3 games, and so I'm just like, if I can beat him, and so we're like about to pass him, and then I'm on the ground. Like, it happened so fast. Like, the foot plate broke at the tube. My feet hit the ground. Chariots of fire, like Ben-Hur, just like, it turned like kind of 45 and just flipped me in the face. And I don't know how I didn't get more hurt, other than we were kind of coming up like a little crest right there. You're kind of coming up a little crest, and so I think I was
slower.
Yeah, like, it was just enough slower and just the right angle, because we were kind of going to the left. The flipping right, for whatever reason, like, protected me. I don't know.
So you were like fully ejected from your chair.
Yeah, it spit
I've
me
never
out.
even seen that happen.
I know, like, it spit me out, and then I was just sitting on the ground, and my chair was upside down, next to me, and I didn't know exactly what happened, but I knew the footplate broke off, and
Mm-hmm.
so I knew that was trash. And
Mm-hmm.
so there was an official behind me. She came like up on her bike, and she's like trying to like kind of get me out of the way because there's racers coming, and so I can't really go anywhere. But we like get my racing chair righted. She like gives me my footplate, and I'm like, that's garbage. Like, you keep that. And I was like, we got to get me in the bucket. And she's like, and I was like, no, you can't help me. Like, I know the
Yeah.
rules. You're about the only person here that is allowed to help me. I was like, so
Mm-hmm.
help me get in the bucket. And so I finally convinced her of this. And at this point, I think it ended up taking me, cost me about 5 minutes on the
Mm-hmm.
run. So, and it felt like 30 seconds and 30 years all at once.
Yeah.
From the time I flipped over to the time I finished. But took like 3, maybe 4 volunteers, or not volunteers, but like officials that showed up,
Yeah.
and, and one official that understood what I was trying to do, because without the foot plate, my chair is not designed to be sat in. And
Right.
so,
You don't have that arrangement.
yeah, and so we literally, I was just like trying to explain, I'm like, just jam my feet like through this opening in these 2 bars, which
Right.
doesn't make any sense to anyone because that's not where feet go, and it's like so difficult to make your
Mm-hmm.
feet go there because they're not supposed to go there. So we
And even
basically,
if they were, I think if I said to someone, I want to get into this racing chair, can you help me? And they had never seen anyone get into a racing chair before, I would not end up in it the
oh,
correct way.
right, yeah,
It's not intuitive.
yeah, and especially when I'm like freaking out, like I'm
Yeah.
trying to be like,
So stressed.
yeah, I'm like trying to be fast, and I'm like, man, I just don't want to be last, like,
Hmm.
I don't want my race to be over. I want to finish. Like, I promised everyone, I'm like, I will finish this race, like no matter what. And so
Did it cross your mind that you wouldn't? Like, did you think about that, or were you just instantly like, I'm getting back in?
I literally flipped my chair over. It rolled. I knew I was finishing the race. As soon as it rolled, I was like, okay,
There's no question.
yeah, like I'll get in this thing somehow, and
Wow.
I'll finish this race. And I did. I was super uncomfortable. I was in a ton of pain. I was super mad. Um,
Yeah.
and so the way that I had to push, like, so I wouldn't flip over backwards, I had to hold myself forwards with one arm, so I could
Hmm.
only push with one arm. And I'd kind of done some damage to the right arm. Nothing serious, but enough that, like,
Wasn't feeling great.
if I had to pick an arm to push with, it wasn't going to be that one. So I held on with my right arm and I pushed with my left up over the invalid bridge to the finish line. And man, like looking back on it, I wish that I had like mentally just like taken a breath, because I wish I could have enjoyed that finish, even though I was dead last. Like I wish I could have enjoyed it.
Wow.
Instead, I was just very angry. Um,
Well, yeah, of course.
and yeah, and I was in so much pain. Like I just wanted out of my racing chair. Um, and so yeah, my anger wasn't directed necessarily at anyone. I was just mad, right?
Yeah, of
Like,
course. That's such a disappointment.
yeah, like you worked so hard. So it definitely was some adversity to get over, and it took me a day or two to like kind of uh, go back and go over what had happened and my feelings, and realize like, hey, you know what? Like I've told some people, when I didn't make Tokyo, I made a promise that I would make Paris. I didn't make a promise that I would win in Paris. I didn't make a promise I would medal in Paris. I didn't even really make the promise that I would finish in Paris. I made a promise that I would get to Paris, and I
Yeah,
did.
you
Like
did the damn thing.
yeah. And so it's like, you know what? I'm a Paralympian at the end of the day, and like I didn't
No
get
one
dead
can take
last.
that away from you.
Yeah, and I didn't get last because I didn't train. I didn't get last because I went there to participate and not compete. Like I went
Hmm.
there because, or I ended up last because shit happens. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no other way to phrase it other than my equipment was as sound as I could make it.
Hmm.
Like we did not know that part could or would fail, but it did. And I've never crashed my racing chair ever.
Oof, I have.
Well, I don't. I've crashed my hand cycle so many times. I don't know how many times. Like I flipped it over
I've done both.
completely. Yeah, I've ended up like sitting on the sidewalk next to my bike. Like, what the hell just happened? Because I like
Hmm.
crashed at like 25 miles an hour. Like my bike at races. Like I've crashed my bikes in important races.
Hmm.
Never crashed my racing chair ever. Like I've never had one like brake in a way to crash, and it happened at the worst possible time. Um, so I was angry, but now I'm just like, you know what, like whatever. Like we freaking hammered. Like I had the fastest H1 bike time. Like I'll
No
take,
surprise.
yeah, I'll take that. Like it was fast. Like so, um, yeah. So many like just big feelings around the entire games and like the entire whole of going to Paris and being a part of it and being a part of like a such a big thing at such a big time. Like it wasn't that long
Hmm.
ago. It was not that long ago at all that if we had gone to the games, the only people that would have been there were our family and friends, and they're the
Yeah.
only ones that would have seen it because it wouldn't have been on TV, and like it. Not that it wouldn't have meant anything, but it would have meant a whole lot to the disabled movement. We're in a
Hmm.
time now where like people are seeing this, like people are hearing our stories and getting to watch it and seeing like, oh man, they're not messing around. Like this is not a
Yeah.
participation trophy. Like these people go there like full on dedicated their entire life to being faster and stronger than everybody else in the world. Um, so to be a part of that display and part of that movement is like so special right now, I think.
I was just gonna say, I feel like in some ways your game story, when you first hear it, it sounds like a really disappointing games. And I think of course it is because you had higher expectations and you always have high expectations. But I think in a lot of ways it also ties in so nicely with your whole story. And to finish the games and to be like what you did on the world stage was get trodden down in by some just situation of life that you had no control over. But then what you did with it, I think was so beautiful and so strong. And to continue to finish and just like make that statement says so much about who you are. And in my opinion, does so much for the movement, for the Paralympic movement to really show like what these athletes are capable of. And I think that our strength as athletes is how we overcome those challenges. And it's just like your games to me is such a great example of that.
I appreciate that because yeah, those first couple days, like I said, I was really mad.
Didn't feel like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it did not feel like a fun way to like have my story of the Paris games end.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
story's definitely not over, but yeah, I did have bigger expectations and hoped for a better outcome. But at the end of the day, like I'm glad, like regardless of how the race went, like I kind of cowboyed up and like just kept moving forward because that's what I
Yeah.
told people ever since. Like anyone that's like, what advice like do you give people? I'm like, keep moving
Yeah.
forward. Like you can take a rest if you need it, but keep moving forward. Like do not sit down for too long, or like or you'll stop. Like you won't go. And I'm like, so just like take a day, take a minute, whatever it is that you need, but then like shift gears and go forward. And so in that moment when I was on the ground, I like you have to make a decision. Like I could have taken a DNF like easily.
Hmm.
I could have just been like, yep, that's the end of it. Chair's broken. Like I'm not gonna do well anymore. So screw it. But instead, I was like, no. Like it was just instant. Like didn't have to think about it. I was like, let's go. Like let's go. Um, but you do like you see like, and I'm so proud of like you and everyone that medaled and everyone that had the race that they wanted to have. And you see those big stories, like those people are the ones like we got back to the States and it was like everyone that I knew that medaled is like at every football game and is getting to, just do all these cool things because they medaled, which is great. Like I'm not by any means saying like they don't
Of
deserve
course.
that, didn't do the work to get all of that. I'm like, but there are some stories out there, not just mine, but there are some really cool stories out there of people that, yeah, they didn't medal, but like they did big things there. And this is like a cool way for people to get their stories out. So I'm glad you're doing this.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be doing this, and I'm really glad that you agreed to be doing this because I do think that when you look in depth at what you and I each did on that day, you did better. Like you were the better man on the day. And I think that outside you get this credit for getting a medal and I feel the same, like it's a big achievement and it should be recognized, but it's not the medal that makes the story impressive. Like it's literally just a piece of metal. Like it doesn't mean anything. I think it's the story and the person that makes the accomplishment impressive. So I'm so glad that you chose to share your story with me because I am so inspired by it. And whenever I have a fraction of the adversity that you have overcome, I think about those types of things and being a kind of athlete that someone like you would be proud of and racing like someone like you. So I'm so glad that you shared your story with us, and I hope you recognize how massive your accomplishment is, even when it didn't end in a podium.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Of course. Seems like a nice place to wrap up. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for talking to me and to James. It was really nice to hear more about your story and to hear the way that you think about it and process it. And I'm always going to be such a big Howie fan, so I'm excited to see what you do next.
Well, I feel like I'm a big Leanne fan because I've kind of watched you go from like crashing in Portugal
Being
to
pretty terrible.
yeah. And so yeah, because I feel like that's where we like really met, and actually started chatting. And so like watching you go from like that type of race to where you are now is like pretty exciting. So, and I've watched you
Yeah.
come through some adversity as well, equipment and everything else. So yeah,
Thanks, man. We have the best community. Do
we really do.
paratriathlon, people. It's the bomb.
Yeah, it really is.
That's our summary. Perfect. Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks everyone for listening. I was so happy I got to share Howie's story with you today. It's such an interesting story and one of those things that you don't get to know about Howie just seeing him out on the race course, but he has such an impressive background. You can catch more of Howie continuing to race in the paratriathlon series with the goal of competing in the 2028 Paralympic Games in LA. See more of Howie on his road to LA and then ultimately competing in his home country in the United States in LA 2028. I want to thank everyone so much who listened to More Than Medals. The stories of paratriathletes have always inspired and amazed me, and I think it's so exciting that I've had the opportunity to share some of these with the community. If you love these stories, continue watching the Paralympics, continue supporting disabled advocates in your communities, and continue checking out Crossing the Line, where we'll have more content for you in the future. As athletes, we all have huge support systems that we want to thank for all of their contributions to our careers in sport and supporting us outside of sport. For myself, I'm supported by a handler who's also my husband. In paratriathlon, my husband Scott helps me get from one piece of equipment to the other. But in life, Scott helps me get through everything, including this podcast. So I wanted to say a big thank you to Scott and the other Scotts out there who are supporting our athletes and making it so that they can do what they do best. Thanks, everyone.